All right, folks, today we are going to be taking a look at what is going to happen in Pokemon in 2023. What does Pokemon investing in 2023 look like? What does the Pokemon market in 2023 look like? Where is grading, sealed, and also singles going to go in Pokemon in 2023? Let's sit back, take the time, look at what the last 6 months has presented us, or the last year, and try and decide how the next year is going to go. Now, these are just all speculation. We're going to look at how things are performing and guess how it's going to go for the next 6 months to a year. We're going to try and lay it out quarter by quarter so that we can have a good feel for maybe how things will progress in the Pokemon TCG next year. Nothing's guaranteed on this, guys. I'm just going to make clear on that. But it is fun to speculate to see how well we can do by looking at prior markets, prior events, and deciding how well Pokemon will be in 2023. Alright guys, so today we're going to go ahead and take a look at all these items. What is going to happen in Pokemon investing in 2023? What's going to happen in singles, inside of sealed products, inside of PSA? What's going to happen with Scarlet and Violet? It's a big question as we move forward into the Pokemon TCG in 2023. End of an era. We're switching over into Scarlet and Violet and leaving Sword and Shield in the past. In the anime, we're losing Ash and Pikachu. We're no longer going to have the staple of the Pokemon TCG on the anime side that has held this thing together. So what is going to be happening in the Pokemon TCG, in Pokemon, in 2023? Well, first item we're going to go look at is sealed products. Alright, that's right. We're going to take a look at what do we think is going to happen with sealed products coming up into 2023. Well, one thing that I will say in the first quarter is that it may start to look a little bit dry. It depends on how much Pokemon wants to put into reprints and making some of these products. I know in our areas, in some areas, products running really slim, but in some areas in the United States, it's running pretty heavy. It seems like distribution has got some really heavy areas and some really light areas. That is good and bad at the same time. It's good for the people because it seems like the areas that are flooded with product right now are areas that were a little bit slower with products in earlier this year. And it's kind of reversed itself in the distribution chain. But on the other hand, is Pokemon going to go do a bunch of reprints of Sword and Shield era products with a price increase already occurring in the Scarlet and Violet areas? Or are they going to concentrate on Scarlet and Violet and kind of leave Sword and Shield behind? A lot of these sets, as we've seen in the past, don't get reprints at the end of their eras. A lot of times they get forgotten or left behind because, hey, we're concentrating on the new sets. We're not really caring about Silver Tempest or Lost Origins or Astral Radiance or even Brilliant Stars. We still have not gotten an announcement for a reprint of Brilliant Stars. So overall, in the sealed product markets, I'm seeing some really good potential coming up, at least the first, second quarter of next year. Now, how our U.S. economy occurs over that time period will justify how well it'll do in quarter 3 and 4. But when it comes down to it, a lot of the investments coming out of the Sword and Shield eras, if you're holding these Pokemon investments from 2022, I see some really good things happening at least halfway through next year, if not all of next year, with these products, especially with my thought process of very limited reprints of the Sword and Shield era when they're going to be working really heavily into the Scarlet and Violet. So overall, I think that there's some really good times coming for a lot of the sealed product investments in the Pokemon TCG. I think if you've been holding on to those booster boxes, there'll be some really good opportunities in the near future to sell those booster boxes. I think if you've been holding some of these V boxes and some of these specialty products, definitely we'll continue to see these increases, slow increases over time of these products going into next year and through next year. I think we're going to see some real prosperous times when it comes down to those sealed products again. I think that Pokemon is not printing to that huge demand that we thought that they were going to do when they bought Millennial Print Group. I think they're going to keep it in check. I think they've done really well in keeping it in check. Certain products they do flood out, like the Charizard UPC, but overall, I think that they're trying to manage the amount of prints that they're doing to kind of keep things in check. They've been watching other TCGs. They've been watching the performance of how they've been doing, and they seem to just be doing the exact opposite of all these other TCGs that are kind of in a bear market and keeping Pokemon going in a bull market. Even in this economy, guys. Inflation through the roof. All this stuff is going up, and yet Pokemon is still performing way above what any of us thought it would this year with everything that's happening in the macro markets around it. So once again, interesting to see. Interesting to see how far into next year this will continue. But my prediction is that we will see some really good, prosperous times on the sealed product fronts, especially Sword and Shield products, going through most of 2023. Moving on now, we're going to take a look at singles. Singles is an interesting front. There's a lot of things happening in the singles market when it comes down to it. We have alternate arts, rainbow rares, we got radiant cards, we've got, all these different variations running around, gold cards and all the other things, full art trainers, all this stuff all jumbled up into the singles market right now. I think the singles market from Sword and Shield will continue. Those alternate arts are still going to keep banging out some really good pricing. That's going to push all the way through most of next year also. I think Sword and Shield stuff is going to do really well. It's all going to come down to reprints at the end of the day. And once again, I'm predicting that they're not going to do much with reprints. They're going to do some. We're going to see some reprints on some of these sets. I think it's inevitable. Evolving Skies, we may still see a reprint of that just because of how expensive that's getting and how difficult it's getting for tournament players. But once again, it's not a really heavy played set any longer. That Jolteon deck had an opportunity and was there for a little bit, but then kind of got squashed really quickly by Fusion Strike and that Mew deck, and then Arceus decks right afterwards, and new decks since then. So it was a really short-lived deck. So I don't know how much for the tournament players or how many tournament players are really looking for that deck. And if they're not looking for it really heavy, Pokemon TCG isn't really going to concentrate on it. So we might see some reprints of some of these bigger sets. Brilliant Stars, another one. We still haven't had any announcements. There's kind of a blip of maybe a reprint coming, and it kind of dissolved. Talking to my friend, nope, they don't have anything on the docket right now for Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance with Lost Origin, or a Silver Tempest reprint. They don't have anything coming. They still have plenty of product for each one of them right now currently, but they said they have no news of new products coming on those particular items. So once again, how long will these reprints not happen? We don't know. We'll see. There's still new sets, so they could still pop up. But I think that Pokemon TCG in general, when it comes down to the singles market, is going to concentrate on Scarlet and Violet, which thus is going to make them singles continue to move up in price, because we aren't getting the reprints to replenish that stock. We're not bringing new singles into the market when that stock is disappearing. You're not getting new cards. You're not bringing in new items. So thus, especially alternate arts, I think will continue to move in that upward direction. I also think that we're going to see some movement on some of these gold cards and rainbow rares. I think that we're going to see some of these upward movements on some of these more difficult cards to pull. It just won't be as big as the alternate arts. The alternate arts are, of course, going to be the big hitters in Sword and Shield. These are going to be the big hitting singles, I think, for the next year going through 2023. And I think your opportunities are probably going to be more in those cards for the short next year or two. But if you're looking for some long-term, that Charizard Radiant card, you can go through Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise. Radiant cards are fantastic. That Gardevoir is a beautiful Radiant. There's a lot of good Radiant cards, but there's mass-produced. So the pricing drops really quickly down to a low price. And then, of course, you have to wait a long period of time for hope that those cards start to do well in the future. So I think in 2023, your biggest bet's going to be in alternate arts. Alternate arts are still going to be the hottest ticket that you're going to get, especially with Crown Zenith coming in with all of those alternate arts that are going to follow up. I think all of those will do extremely well. As long as the macro markets continue to hold up as we're seeing right now, yeah, there's not much change up or down, but at least it's kind of finding that point where we're borderline recession. But hey, it still seems like people have the money to spend and they're not really hesitating. And Pokemon, once again, is doing a fantastic job on the printing front to create a demand for their product, create it so that there's not an overabundance or a complete flooding of products out on the shelves. They seem to be doing really well at managing that, and they don't necessarily want to hear, in the words of Rudy, that printer go brr. They just want to continue to maintain a solid stream of income coming in and product going out, and that's a fantastic way to be when it comes down to the company and how to stay in a bull market compared to a bear market that we're seeing in a lot of other areas in the collectibles markets currently. So next thing we're going to turn into is graded. All right, guys, we're going to take a look at graded now, and I'm not going to go into graded cards themselves. I think graded cards are hit or miss and all over the place. WotC cards may move. a little bit down, maybe may move a little bit up. Every sector is going to completely act differently. Modern graded cards, I think that we're going to continue to see this kind of hype and FOMO on a certain card, and then it's going to spike, and then you're going to see it kind of fall back. Kind of like the Moonbreon. I think that it spiked, and now it's dropping back down into reality, and it just takes a little bit of time. People get excited about something. People really start running on something, and a lot of times that causes that hype and FOMO and really expensive pricing. And the only way that that's going to happen is people need to get it out of their system. So we might be seeing that a lot on these alternate arts as we continue to move on. Some of these alternate arts, like that Lugia V, might be the next one. It might spike because it's a very nice card. Silver Tempest may not be getting a lot of reprint. It actually seemed like, I don't know, and I haven't asked, I should have asked, is how much reprint or how much print quantity was there compared to like Brilliant Stars and Fusion Strike and all that. It seems like it's down. There wasn't very much available in our area. Once again, it could be distribution more than anything. But this area has been a little bit slower when it comes down to getting product in hand compared to some other areas that I hear are getting tons of product. They're just buried in it. So overall, these graded cards, I think alternate arts are going to have some really good opportunities, especially specific alternate arts. I think that Garantina V is another one that's going to have a really good opportunity. And the end of the day, the Arceus one, Charizard alternate art, going all the way through a lot of these other ones like the Machamp alternate art is going to be hit or miss. But I think the Dialga and Palkia will have their day. I think that we're going to see some opportunities on all of those gods of Pokemon kind of having maybe a little bit of a blip up in the graded side. But once again, not a graded master. I do grading somewhat, but I'm not a professional in it by any means. The more thing that I want to cover on this grading part of it when the predictions are coming up is going to be PSA. PSA, I predict we will be seeing $12 PSA grading no later than second quarter. I think that I would not be surprised if we seen it in February, March, but I do think with them hitting $15 here before the end of the year, I think that $12 grading is probably not far off at the end of the day, or being sub $12. I think the PSA is catching up with most of their stuff, and they are trying to be sure that they continue to bring new product in. So they're going to lower that price, but I don't think we'll ever see grading go below $10. Let's be 100% honest. The cost of inflation, the cost of employees, the cost of upgrades, the cost of everything that's involved in anything right now is up. So we're not going to be seeing a sub 10 grading any longer when it comes down to PSA. I think that they'll be running that $12 special probably in February, March. But I think that by the end of the second quarter that most people are going to be able to get that $12 bulk grading submissions back again. I do think that that's going to happen. PSA is going to get to a point where they are going to start running low on some submissions, and they're going to want to get it back in there. The way they're going to do it is, of course, drop that submission cost to get people like myself that do have some cards I want to get graded, but they're for my collection, or they're really tight margin stuff that even at 15, it's iffy. 18 was too high. It was right borderline where if it came back at 9, you wouldn't make any profit on it. And if it came back at 10, you'd make a little profit. That's the things that are going to come down to it is that's why I think we'll see that $12 submissions by the end of the second quarter pretty consistently, is just because of the fact that they are going to need throughput, and it's also going to bring people like myself that have piles of cards sitting here ready to go the incentive to finally pull the trigger and get those done. And because I'm not a big risk taker where I'm hoping on 10s, I do plan on 9s. If I can't make money at a 9, I'm not sending the card. 8, I need to break even. 9, I got to make a little money, and 10's got to be a profit, or I'm just not going to even take the risk. It's just not worth it. I think a lot of people, when it comes down to their business models, are running that kind of theme, and thus, when you put that $12 to $10, 12 sub 12 grading fee, you'll see that go down, and I do believe we will be seeing that here in the near future. Moving on to Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet is going to be the beginning of the new era. And of course, I'm going to talk about the Scarlet and Violet base set because that's the one we know we have coming right now. We do know that there'll be other expansions, and we know that they will continue to change and adapt as they move forward for what we're going to see in these expansions. But my prediction is for Scarlet and Violet is that it may be a little flat. I don't know if we're going to see alternate arts. I highly doubt we'll see Radiant cards. They're going to back down the amount of items inside of a base set Scarlet and Violet. My prediction is that it will be a little bit quieter of a set, which is typical. I mean, if you go back to Sun and Moon, you go back to XY, you go back to Black and White, you go back to Sword and Shield base set. They are very simplistic sets that really do manage for mechanics. They want mechanics. Mechanics are going to be the number one thing. What that is going to do to the Sword and Shield era is it's going to create more demands, because you're going to see more people wanting alternate arts and wanting those flashy cards, and people that have never been through an era change like this and seen this, rise and fall of an era. You're going to be surprised that there isn't all this flash inside of those first couple sets. Typically the first and second expansions still are very slow. You look at the Sword and Shield era and check out what we have when it comes down to, base set. You had Rebels Clash, and then you had your first Charizard inside of there with the VMAX, with, of course, Darkness Ablaze. But overall, not a lot of flash, not a lot of flare. Vivid Voltage was the first set inside of the era. It actually was a full set that had flash to it. That's when you actually got those potential for the amazing rares. That's right. Amazing rares didn't show up until Vivid Voltage, and then they put them back again in the next set in Shining Fates. But then, right after that, we saw the whole breakout of alternate arts and battle styles. So realistically, the first few expansions of a set are typically fairly flat, and that's just because they're mechanics. They're mechanics driven, and that's when you see a lot of times the older sets will have more success, and even some of the slower sets in the past, like Astral Radiance, Lost Origin, and Silver Tempest. If they're not really performing as high as you think they will, they could accelerate a little bit more in the beginning of that, because they're concentrating on that Scarlet and Violet prints and not going back to Sword and Shield because of that price differential. Once again, you're getting higher booster box prices. You're seeing higher prices from Pokemon International. They're raising MSRP on all of these products. That means that they are going to concentrate on where the money is and maybe not as much on Sword and Shield. And that's why sealed products, singles, and all those things might go up in price, because people will be chasing the flash. Crown Zenith, with us not seeing it out yet, but with the performance, of course, of V-Star Universe, it's going to be a crazy set. I think that we're going to have a lot of hype and FOMO. If you have not found that set, I think that I personally would highly suggest looking at getting some of that set in hand. I don't think they're going to print enough of this. I honestly don't, by the hype and FOMO that's leading out of this from V-Star Universe. I think Crown Zenith, they're going to have a hard time on the first run of printing enough of this to meet the demand. And I think that's all going to be driven too, because people are going to get to Scarlet and Violet and they're going to go back. They're going to go back because they aren't finding what they're looking for inside of Scarlet and Violet. Plus, people are not going to be happy with a 3 holo pack. Let's be honest. It's nice that they're trying to do that for that price increase. I think that they're doing that as kind of a consolation because, hey, we're raising the price on you. So, hey, we're going to go ahead and give you a little bit of a bang for your buck by giving you 3 holos, which nobody wants holos anyways. So it's just more bulk inside of a pack. And that bulk, of course, in the bulk market right now is not great. Let's be 100% honest. We got 1 cent commons and uncommons. You're getting 5 cent holos. You're going to see, 10 cents for your character rares and all that kind of set. Radiant cards are 10 cents right now, 10 cents. If we see a mass flow of holos coming in, we might see a decrease on that holo foil or holo bulk prices, also bringing that down, maybe down to 3 cents. It'll just kind of drive it down. So overall, I think those are some issues we're going to see with Scarlet and Violet, but the return of the EX is going to be the real question at the end of the day. I think the return of EX is going to be good. I think that it's going to be a good mechanic to bring back, a good gameplay mechanic to reinstate and kind of return to. I think overall, a lot of players are going to be comfortable with it. It seems like, from what I've been looking at some of the pre-release cards, the mechanic is going to be really similar to the prior one. So definitely a good opportunity there for those to do extremely well. Once again, nice return back to EX. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how they perform and how well they do. I think that there's some good opportunities here in those EX cards, and once again, it's going to give us some opportunities on the past EX cards. So overall, I think Scarlet and Violet's going to seem a little slow. There's probably going to be a lot of complaining of people not seeing what they want in these. Pull rates are probably not going to be what everybody wants, of course, and we're going to continue to see that kind of complaints. But overall, I think that Pokemon's going to concentrate on those and the expansions that come after Scarlet and Violet base set and really go that direction. So overall prediction is I think Scarlet and Violet's going to be a little slow. Sword and Shield's still going to be pretty hot going into most of the first and second quarter next year. By third and fourth quarter, we might be seeing the first expansion of Scarlet and Violet that people will be starting to go for chases. We might see the return of something like a Radiant card. maybe a different trainer gallery, maybe some trainer cards, or maybe alternate arts will return at that point, or they will already be there, but maybe we'll start seeing more of the fan favorite chaseable collector style alternate art showing up versus just the mechanic style cards, the mechanics that are involved inside of this set, especially alternate arts of the main two characters of Scarlet and Violet. So once again, that's my predictions right now. Overall, I think that we have some really good things coming. I think that the markets are doing really well. I think all spectrums of the market are growing. I think that the hobby is stabilized. I think we're still bringing in new people, which is fantastic. We want to see new people into this market in order to continue growth. If we have new people coming in, that brings new ideas, that brings new things forward, and that continues to make the hobby fun, successful, and keeps that collection and your investment hobby doing well. So once again, when it comes down to Pokemon investment and the Pokemon market in 2023, I see all good things. I just see possibly some slowdowns from the Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet may struggle a little bit at first. People adapting, people have never been through these changes and jumping into a new era are going to be a little shocked and surprised by those first couple sets when it comes down to it. They're gonna expect Flash that they've seen leaving Scarlet or leaving Sword and Shield, especially with Crown Zenith being the final hurrah with all those alternate arts, and then all of a sudden they're going to go into a base set and first two expansions that are just mechanic driven, and it's going to change things for them. So other than that, guys, hopefully this is good for you. Hopefully you guys had some fun with this predictions. Hopefully it's something that you're interested in. Again, I always like taking a look at these things, and it's always fun to look at this video again 1 year down the road and see how close we were. Last year I was about 60%. There were some things I was off on, of course. The markets did not fall as much as I thought. Pokemon kept her in a bullish market. I did not predict that. I thought we would be more in a bearish market following all the other TCGs. That was my biggest prediction that I was off on that one. Otherwise, PSA caught up like we figured, right on time. Overall pricing is right where I figured on the PSA stuff. I mean, a lot of those things were right on that last prediction. It's just, you can't predict how the market's going to react to the outside macro market. And once again, we're trying to do our best on these and these guesses, especially 1 year out. But overall, I think Pokemon's in a really good place. It's doing better than most of the other TCGs out there right now. And I think that we will see some really good things moving into the future with the Pokemon TCG, especially in 2023. So guys, hopefully you guys do enjoy this content. If you've made it this far, be sure that you hit that like button on this video. Also hit that subscribe, because we are doing the giveaway. And the giveaway is only visible to subscribers. That's the way I hid it away from you guys. So if you do want to get in on that, and you do want to get involved in or get your opportunities on that, be sure that you hit that subscribe, and the video will be hidden. I will be releasing that on Tuesday. So you will have the ability to go back and look at that, but it will be subscribers only. So once again, guys, thanks you for joining me. Other than that, if you do like this kind of content, check out these two videos over here. I will put them up for you as always afterwards. And we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.